So we're beginning to study leadership in the Torah. What are the traits of a leader? What are the motivations of a leader? So where do we look? We look to our leaders. And no question, the first of our leaders is Moshe Rabeinu. Moshe Rabeinu, I've already mentioned, he took us out of Egypt. He brought us down the Torah. A lot of other things too. What is it? What is that one trait more than anything else that the Torah uses as a description of Moshe Rabeinu? So we have a pasuk in Chumash, V'ha'Aish Moshe. This week's parsha. V'ha'Aish Moshe onav mikol adam al pnei ha'adama. Moshe was the most humble human being than any other person on the face of the earth. Humility, anava. What exactly is humility? So we have to begin with a good kasha. Hashem dictated the Torah to Moshe, but Moshe wrote it. Moshe wrote this pasuk. Moshe wrote the words. V'ha'Aish Moshe onav. Moshe is humble. Mikol adam al pnei adama. Than every other human being on the face of the earth. Moshe Rabeinu wrote this. So you could say, all right, he accepted, but he didn't really believe it. The halacha is, if a Jew says he doesn't believe one pasuk in the Torah, he's labeled an apikoros. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't an apikoros. So he had to believe it. He had to believe it. According to the simple understanding of humility, how could Moshe Rabbeinu believe it and also write it? How is that? By the way, we have a similar thing in Torah Sheba'al Peh. The Mishnah at the end of Sota talks about all the things that Klal Yisrael lost, things that deteriorated since the destruction of the temple. And among them, it lists the great kinds of people that we had. And the Gemara says, Mishir Meis Rebbe, when Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi passed away, Botla Anova. Humility was bottle. That was it. He was the last real humble person. That's the Mishnah. So if you read the Gemara, Amar Rav Yosef, or Rav Yosef says, Lo tisni anava. Don't say that we lost anava. Do'iga ana, because I'm an anav. Same idea. So what does it mean to be humble? What's the value of humility? We meet up with Moshe Rabbeinu's humility at the very, very beginning, when Hashem is pleading with him to take the Jews out of Egypt. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, no. Send somebody else. Send somebody else. Ramban writes, in what did Moshe Rabbeinu's humility, in what was it really most manifested? He says in this, Moshe Rabbeinu felt that of all the Jews, he was the least appropriate to be the leader. He felt he was the least appropriate to be the leader. Every other Jew had some talent that he didn't. And he was least appropriate. Now come on. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know who he was. He didn't know who he was. The altar of Novardok. The altar of Novardok in his Sefer Madregas HaAdam says that Moshe Rabeinu looked at every Jew and he was able to see his specific talents. He saw his greatness. He saw greatness in Jews that nobody else did. He saw every single Jew and was able to put his finger on what makes this person special. He saw Jews as being so great. And himself. So the Alter of Novardok adds something, and he says, Moshe Rabbeinu was busy being self-critical. And although he was aware of his strengths, he was also so aware of his weaknesses. Whereas with other people's weaknesses, he let them pass by. See, he really saw greatness in everybody else. Now, one second. Was he really naive? Was he really, really, really naive? No, he wasn't naive. Perhaps we're naive. He was so wise. He really believed that any Jew can do it. He really believed that any Jew can do it. He did not think that he was God's gift to humanity. He saw the greatness in everybody else. So he told Hashem, why me? He didn't want the position. Till finally Hashem, after pleading this, took two days of discussion, Hashem got tough with him and told him he had to. So he accepted it. What's the moral of the story? Listen here. If you grew up dreaming of being a leader, and as you go through life, you look for a cause that you can express your leadership in, you're disqualified. Because then it's about you. The cause is secondary. When it came to Moshe Rabeinu, there was no me. It wasn't about Moshe Rabeinu. On the contrary, he'd rather let someone else do it. It was only the cause. It was only because he cared. The personal side cannot be part of it. Humility doesn't mean you believe you can't do it. Humility doesn't mean that you're naive and don't know your strengths. Humility is, it doesn't have to be me. It has to get done. It's not about me. That's humility. It's very interesting, the Chofetz Chaim. Chofetz Chaim, just understanding who he was, establishing the whole context of the Chofetz Chaim is a lesson in humility. The Chofetz Chaim was a storekeeper. He was a grocer. He kept the grocery open for the time necessary to make enough money so that he can support his family on the bare minimum and spend the rest of the day studying Torah. And it didn't take long before people realized this man is the Gadol Hador. He never changed his dress. He dressed like a Jewish, Polish grocer. Yeah, he was part of a yeshiva at a certain point that really his family opened for him. But he was at home most of the time, and they were the ones that were teaching. he never really assumed any position of leadership in the Jewish nation. Yet everyone turned to him for direction. At the Knessia Gedola, what was then formed, the Aguda, which was really meant to unite Jews all over, Torah true Jews, create a leadership, and really save the Jewish people. This was Europe that was becoming less and less observant. And they're going to see a Gedola. He opened, he spoke. The description is just what went on in the room. There were foreign correspondents there, Jewish, and most of them were not observant, anti and cynical. There's a description one of them wrote of what it was like when the Chofetz Chaim stood up. Total silence. Total silence. Everybody was interested in hearing every word he said. And the Chofetz Chaim began. And he said, with all of these great leaders here, why am I getting up to speak first? So here's what he told them. He said, at home, you've got to provide food and drink for your family, and the water better be healthy. Certainly when you're talking about people who are not well, so you've got to purify it. They didn't have water filters, but they would boil water. Most water was contaminated in those days. And it takes time, but it's necessary. What if there's a fire in town? So what do? Boil all the water first? You get any water you can, just pour it on it. Said the Chofetz Chaim, then Europe is burning. The Jewish people are falling apart. This is not a time to look for who is the Jew who is most learned. Contaminated water will put out the fire too. So I'm here to help put out the fire. That's humility. Humility is it's all about the cause. The cause is not there to create for you a position of leadership. Leadership is you see the need and you rise to the occasion. That's what Moshe Rabeinu is all about. It's not about him. He believed in every other Jew more than he believed in himself. He saw everyone else as being more capable. It was only after Hashem said, you're the one that's got to do it, so he went. You got to take the Jews out of Egypt. And out in the world today, there's this people culture. And part of the people culture is that people take on causes. What came first? Their place in society or their cause? What was it all about? You know, when you're up there, you got to have a cause. the whole people culture, is diametrically opposed to our understanding of leadership. Leadership is based on humility. It's not about me. It's about the need. And if someone else can do it better, let him do it. It's not about me. This is not just an ideal, but in practice, it doesn't work otherwise. And maybe I'm going to vent a little bit. I've seen couples who decide to dedicate their lives to the Jewish people. They move out to Nowheresville, far away from friends and family. There are few people like them, if any. They have no one to socialize with for real. Socializing is a strain because people's values are so different. And they're idealistic, and they take positions that don't pay well. So they're struggling financially, but they're doing it for the Jewish people. And socially, it's so difficult. And their kids, they're trying hard to supplement their education, but it's not the education they would have bargained for. They would have gotten a better education where they came from. So they're sacrificing their emotional comfort, they're sacrificing their financial comfort, and they're even making sacrifices when it comes to their own kids, because they're doing this for the sake of Kiddush Shem Shamayim. And they work for an organization, and the person they're working for isn't necessarily so sensitive. It doesn't treat them so nicely. Maybe even insults them. So it's all over. Now, I don't understand. You put up with being alone in the world. You put up with struggling financially. You're even willing to put up with your kids getting a second-rate education. But you're not going to put up with someone insulting you. What does that say? Something's missing. Something's wrong. If it's about the cause, and the me has nothing to do with it, and you feel great being Mekadesh Shem Shamayim, and the insults makes you really feel great. Something else I'm putting up with for the sake of Kiddush Shem Shamayim makes me even stronger. Depends where you're coming. I'm preparing you for leadership. Because Jewish leadership means you're guaranteed you're going to get hate mail. I won't show you mine, it's Lashon Hara, but I get it on a regular basis. You're going to get hate mail. You're going to have enemies. People will accuse you of absolutely everything under the sun. If you're in it for you, quit while you're ahead. Forget about it. Forget about it. It's about the cause. Without humility, without this midah, That's not leadership. That's tooting your own horn. That's building your own popularity, your fan club. They're opposites. This is what the Torah is teaching us in Moshe Rabeinu. You got a choice. Leadership means you're selfless. It's all for the cause. You're a non-entity. Everything about yourself, everything is open for compromise. You'll settle for second-rate anything, including your own reputation. Because you believe in the cause. Because you know it has to happen. You will do anything for it because you know it's right. As Rabbi Berg told us, with no question, the greatest Chilul Hashem facing the Jewish nation, the greatest Chilul Hashem on earth, is the fact that most Jews don't know they were created. They don't know why we're here. They think Torah is ancient history. They think Torah true Jews are cavemen, fanatics, fundamentalists. It's the greatest Chilul Hashem. If this bothers you, then we can talk about what else you need. If this doesn't bother you, but you like the idea of being part of a leadership program, because you'd like to be a leader someday, go to Harvard. That's not what we're about. In the world today, leadership and politics, they're synonymous. They're synonymous. We all know politics is ugly. You want to know what leadership looks like? Look at Moshe Rabeinu. Not at all the people in the news. The Jewish people is filled with personalities. Jews are personalities. There are a lot of personalities and a lot of people that make a lot of noise. They come in all different colors and flavors. They write, they speak. We need leadership. We need leadership. We need people that are going to be able to change the face of the Jewish nation. Not people that are looking to get into the news. Throughout the history of the Jewish people, the Gedolei Hador, the Torah leadership, was never elected. And in most cases was never even appointed. It only happened. The Chofetz Chaim being the classic He wasn't even the Rav of his own little town of Radin. What's interesting, the world was a lot bigger than it is today because communications were not so easy. People in one country, Jews in one country, did not necessarily know who the great people were in a different country. I grew up in a family with a long Hasidic background. They came from Transylvania, different parts of it. I was sent to a Lithuanian yeshiva where I heard about all the greats of Lithuania. I would come home telling the stories about them. And they never heard of them. They never heard these names before. The only exception was the Chofetz Chaim. The Chofetz Chaim was the one person everybody heard of. How does that happen? Not from the position, not as part of a movement or a political party even. This was the person that knew things had to be done and did whatever he could to make them happen. It began with his war on Lashon Hara. Until his day, the laws of forbidden speech were sketchy, here, there, a little hint. No one ever put them together. And he felt that this was responsible for the destruction of Jewish communities. In most cities to this very day, most shuls are breakaways from other shuls. Most Jewish organizations are breakaways from other Jewish organizations who were also breakaway from other Jewish organizations. The Chofetz Chaim saw that it was Lashon Hara that was at the bottom of it all. And he decided he's got to fight. So he put together the Sefer Chofetz Chaim, which was obviously written by somebody who knew everything. And then he went around peddling this book. He personally sold it. He went around peddling it. People didn't know who he was, but they saw his Sefer. He took advice. He took advice from some of the leaders of that generation. He wanted it to be anonymous. But they told him that because it deals with halacha, you cannot print a book on halacha without taking responsibility for it. That was the sole reason he put his name to it. And later when he wrote the Mishnah Brura, it was the same story. He put his name there because there was halacha. Everybody realized this is the Gadol Hador. This is the man that is fighting what was the most destructive aspect of Jewish communities. And that was the way people spoke about one another. And with the strengthening of the Enlightenment and the falling of more and more Jewish cities to the Enlightenment, Chofetz Chaim did what he could to get people to try to work with our brethren. He wasn't so successful. It didn't catch on so well. The one thing the Chofetz Chaim really screamed about. Of how we've got to reach our non-observant brethren. We've got to reach our ignorant brethren. He said then that any Rav of a city that doesn't spend at least one day a month among the non-frum is going to burn in Gehenna when he gets up there. For some reason, not enough people took it seriously. But today, after a handful of people did take it seriously, Reb Noach Weinberg and a few friends of his, Kiruv is on the map. The war on Jewish ignorance has gained momentum. The words of the Chofetz Chaim and his passion. That's what leadership are about. If you feel that way, it'll work. If you feel that way, you'll be leaders. If you're looking for personal advancement, if you're looking for popularity, if you want to go into the history books, once again, this is not the place. That's not the leadership that we're preparing you for. You'd like to feel this way, but you're not there yet? That's okay. So let's work on Anova together. Let's work on Anova together. Let's work on the importance of the cause above all. And realize how sitting next to the cause, the need for change, our personal ambitions are really next to nothing. They mean so much less to us. The cause is so much bigger and so much more powerful. Let's work together on our Anova. And let's build our passion for the cause. And then we can lead, as Aish has done, lead the battle against Jewish ignorance and bring the Jewish people to the stature they really should be at. Hashem should give us the strength, the wisdom, and the stamina to really get there and really affect a major change in the Jewish nation and even bring the Geula Shalema from Herav Yamin.